Welcome, everybody, to Dice with Death, a performative Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Hello, everybody. How is everyone today?
Nervous.
Hey, how's it going? I was just really conscious that you were doing your bit, and I felt like I was heavy breathing like a perv into the mic.
Amy Mallett, everyone, the professional pervert on podcasts.
You'll know her from the heavy breathing.
Yes.
Oh,
Right,
I'm gonna lean back.
let me get through this intro stuff that I've written for you all. My first co-host is a spectacled marketeer, a man who has swallowed his own baby's vomit, and a socially awkward socialite. It's Jamie Powis.
Hi, I have swallowed my own daughter's vomit, and it was the worst experience of my life.
What did it taste like?
What did it taste like? Yeah.
It was just after she fed, and I picked her up, and I was like, "Oh, hi, baby." She went, "Bleh." So it was mainly kind of like curds and whey.
Little Miss Moffat over here. Jesus.
Yo, I haven't heard that phrase for quite a long time.
Your wife's own breast milk being regurgitated into your own mouth. Lovely. My second co-host is a lover of luminous dip dye, a digital embodiment of a phoenix down, and, guys, a full-time woman. It's IGN's Amy Mallett.
Woo! Full-time woman! Proud owner of a uterus.
Woo! Let's hear it for the uteri.
Uteri? Is it uteri? Is that the plural of uteruses? Uteruses?
I don't know. Is anybody a doctor here? Can anybody tell me if uteri is the right
I'm
thing?
going to judge you for your answer. Uteri? Utero? Who bloody knows? If you do know, let us know the answer, because it's always good to have a uterus fact under your belt. You never know when you might need it.
My third and final co-host is a spectacled ginger giant, diehard Chesterfield FC supporter, and, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, a Claudio Lugli brand ambassador? It's WhatCulture.com's Adam Wilbourn.
Hello, everybody.
You're a what ambassador?
Claudio Lugli. They make fun wrestling shirts, and I love wearing them. Basically, I'm wearing one right now. In fact,
Who's the boxer? Who's the boxer who wears them?
Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury, right? He has suits made out of them, shirts. He goes on every show that's ever on TV in one of those. But yeah, you've got like a 10% discount code. This podcast isn't sponsored, but you genuinely have a discount code, don't you?
It will be by episode 3.
Yeah, if you want it, it's on my Twitter at Adam Wilbourn. Yeah, and you'll see me wearing these shirts.
He's plugging his Twitter as well. He's a pro. He's an absolute pro.
Yeah, already. Get it straight in there.
And I am, of course, your direct messenger, Oli Bateman. I didn't really write a good intro for me, but that's me. So there we go. What is this podcast about? Jamie, have you got any ideas what we're doing here?
No.
Okay.
These introductions, no.
No. Well, what I've got written down is 4 mates getting together to play D&D and tell a few good stories. I can't promise that all the stories are going to be good, but I can promise that a few of them might be okay.
We only have to hit the minimum guarantee. That's all we need to do. No more or no less.
We only need to hit a quota of a few good stories. How many is a few, by the way? I understand it's more than a couple, but I don't know if it's less than several.
Guaranteed 3 or more.
We can guarantee a hat trick of good D&D stories on this podcast. What are all your experiences of 5th edition D&D so far? Who's played a lot? Who's not played a lot? Like, what have you guys experienced in the D&D world so far?
Well, Jamie, you got me hooked on this, so why don't you start us off?
I started by watching, listening to a couple of podcasts that I really, really love. So I'm not going to, should I mention them? Is this free advertising for them? Can we do that?
Shout them out. Why not?
Love the Adventure Zone. I love Not Another D&D Podcast, and I love Critical Role. Just like to listen to those, and then finally got this bug that I really wanted to play it myself, and it was quite difficult to find a game around where I lived, and I didn't really want to just go on forums and stuff. And some bloke called Ollie messaged me and went, "You into D&D? Do you want to go down and play a game?" And I was like, "Yes, Ollie. Absolutely." And that's kind of my experience, really. So I've been playing a few games since then.
Yeah, we went to our first ever D&D session together at a place in Birmingham, this kind of, tabletop RPG cafe. And apart from kind of enjoying playing with 20 other people, which is an absolute no-no in D&D.
Oh, God. Man, that sounds like a nightmare.
The overwhelming thing about our first session was unfortunately the smell of the people that were in there.
I was going to make the joke, and I felt like, no, I can't do that. I can't abandon nerd kind and discard them like that in a sentence. But yeah,
Nerds don't know deodorant, mate. Nerds do not know how to put roll on or spray on. Go on, Jamie.
Can I just intervene by say it wasn't the D&D players who were smelling at that time.
Yeah.
Just want to defend D&D. It wasn't. It wasn't them.
Let's call it out.
It was a Wizard of the Coast.
Let's call it out. It was
a wizard.
It was
the coast. One of those coastal wizards stinking up the place.
It was the bloody Magic the Gathering players and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh players who were sat in the corner. And I say sat in the corner. There was about 60 of them all playing in a tournament, and there wasn't any aircon on, and it was just it was like being underground in a sewer with a bunch of lads who had been on an all-nighter. It was terrifyingly awful. It was bad.
And to be fair, if you are a wizard wearing your robes on a hot coast, you are going to smell as well. So let's
absolutely. And they're always in black, very unforgiving.
Yeah. Location is everything with a wizard wearing a robe. Amy or Adam, what are your experiences of D&D?
Oh, well, Wilbur, you basically started, so you go.
I think I sort of dismissed D&D when I first heard about it. I just thought, what sort of losers play that? And now, me. I got into it via Jamie and you, Ollie, and also through. I'm a huge fan of Jake and Amir, and obviously that translates into NADPod. Jake's involved in that, and I gave that a few listens when I was away on my honeymoon and kind of got hooked into it. And then, you guys introduced me into it. And since then, me and the other half, and Louise and you guys have just been playing it on a regular basis. And
we've played some home games, haven't we? We've played a few Sunday sessions.
Yeah. And I to be honest, I really enjoyed it. I thought I'll give it a go. But then, slicing dudes in half and making lame puns, which is a sneak peek of what you're going to get from my character on this. I really enjoyed. So the moment we talked about doing something like this, I leapt at it, and excited to see where we go from here.
Amy, how many times have you played before up until now?
So I've played a handful of times. I feel like the first time I ever played D&D, I kind of got tricked into it because I, obviously being in the games industry now, but like I've always been an exceptional geek when it comes to fantasy culture and video games. And I started out playing with a bunch of people who I'd usually go around their house and play games with. So I must have been quite young. I must have been about 18. And then one day they were all just sat at the table and they were like, we're going to play something new. And I was like, okay. And before I knew it, I was sat in a chair with a pot of noodle in front of me and an energy drink and a sheet of lots of numbers. And they were just like, oh, we're going to make you a character. And being such a massive RPG fan, like I'm a Final Fantasy addict, anything that kind of involved me building a character and working on a stat system really appealed to me. So I did a few like small campaigns with my bunch of friends from home. Shout out to the Wellingborough Massive if they're listening. And then Rup. Fun fact about Wellingborough, right? So Wellingborough is a town in the middle of Northamptonshire, and some very creative chavs at some point vandalized the sign on the way in. So instead of it saying "Welcome to Wellingborough," it said "Welcome to Wellrough." And I just thought that was totally genius.
That's so good.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I played it with a few friends from home and done a couple of one shots since. But I'm looking forward to getting stuck into something permanent.
Yeah, you've played a Sunday session with all of us, and me and Jamie kind of sat down, got together and thought, well, let's do this proper, shall we? Let's do a proper full-on campaign. No one-shots where you don't get to role-play your character to the fullest. No one-shots where you barely get to use your combat skills or anything. This is going to be a big story-driven campaign where you guys get to embody these characters and really go for it, really role-play, improv. I mean, that's what I want to get out of it. So, yeah, welcome to the table, everybody. So what is a session 0? Right, a session 0 is where we all get together before we start the main quest of the campaign, I introduce you guys and, of course, the listeners now to the world that you're going to play in. You get to create your characters all together at the table while recording this podcast, chat about who your characters are, how they fit into the world, maybe even try some of your combat, some of your skills, some of your spells, anything that you guys want to know and get to learn about the character before we jump into the world. Do you guys mind if I read off this big long paragraph that I've written about the world?
No, not at all. We could use a refresher. Go for it.
Okay, so welcome to the world of Paalette, a solar system stretching hundreds of thousands of light years over vast expanses of pitch black, star-filled space. In the center, Valkanen, a light that pulses with the heat of 1,000 volcanoes, giving life to all 7 of its inhabited planets: Eid, Arans, Yuyo, Een, Azul, Igo, and Ole.
Wait.
Magic. Hey, there you go.
Sorry, spoilers.
That's a little giveaway to where Adam.
Ole.
Magic is everywhere, and I mean everywhere. It's in the soil and bedrock, the oceans, the wind, and the atmosphere. It powers everyday technology, heals the sick, causes civil unrest between warring factions, and governs the law and societal norms. Everyone comes into contact with it, but few mortals harness its power to wield it for themselves. And those who do either exhibit heroism of a Herculean height or bring upon the world an unpleasant evil of unlimited magnitude. The gods of Paalette are as prevalent as the oxygen is in the air, with shrines dotted around each region or hemisphere dedicated to one or many of the gods of Arcania. You'd be hard-pressed not to meet a community that wasn't impacted by the Pantheon. All of them grant power to those who want it, but only someone of strong mental reserve and skill has the foresight to wield it well. I promise you guys there's only one more paragraph. I can write this quite long. The populace of Paalette is diverse in age, class, and race. Much like Earth, each planet is populated by millions, and in some cases billions of people. The wealthiest do interplanetary travel under strictly governed checks and paperwork, while the poorest stay put, with no other option but to struggle with what little opportunity they have. Some get by better than others. Some are worse off than most. But some, just some, walk the line of exciting adventure by choice or by necessity. And that's where you guys come in.
Whoop,
Yeah, yes.
whoop, whoop.
I'm so glad that got the reaction it deserved, which was utter silence.
I was unmuting myself in my defense.
I was also taking a drink at the time.
Yeah,
you should have given us a warning or something.
I was just thinking about how much we're going to destroy this perfect world. So,
oh dear. Well, having sent you guys a lot of information, what is your kind of take on the world so far? What are your likes and dislikes about it? Like, any kind of thoughts about the stuff that I've sent you over various emails? Anyone? Jamie, what do you think?
I am excited because I played an artificer in a previous campaign, and I'm well excited for firearms in D&D. So
I was so tempted to be an artificer for that reason. It's such a cool thing, isn't it?
artificers they're really, really cool.
To kind of give some context to this, obviously I sent you lot out all a piece of, paper with all the information that I've kind of just read out. And one of the details about this world are guns do exist in this world. It's not a totally medieval kind of setting. It's like, if I look at the world of Zelda and Breath of the Wild, if you were to look at that as a campaign where runes kind of power electrical items, and that's what happens. So why wouldn't there be guns in this world? But
Yeah.
if you do wield a gun, you are more than likely to be, let's say, revered, feared, or thrown out of a town. Or so you can have a gun, but be very careful about where you brandish it. That's all I'm saying.
Don't go waving it about.
Don't go waving your gun about, son.
I really like the idea of a world being kind of mixed with a little bit of sci-fi and a little bit of fantasy. I think for me, again, going back to Final Fantasy, that's something that I love, is that kind of steampunk world in which there's magic and there's swords and there's dragons, but somehow there's also crazy airships that can travel to different planets, and there's some kind of electricity, like you say, runes, power tablets. There's some kind of force out there, and that's governing the world. So yeah, it's fascinating. I'm glad it's not very generic in a fantasy sense. I'm glad that it's got, and you've listed it here actually, phones, TVs, trams, vehicles, and dildos.
Yeah.
So all of those things.
I had to cover every basis, and of course, small electrical items or large electrical items, depending on your preference, would be powered by arcane energy, including a dildos. So there we go.
I think you'll find that a
Here we go.
dildo isn't actually powered. I don't want to get geeky and fastidious straight away, but just going to throw that out there.
Can Ann Summers sponsor our podcast next time round?
I forgot, sorry, Jamie, I forgot how much of an expert you were on the sex toy industry. So next time I will use vibrators instead of dildos. I hope we can move past this.
Last time I went around to Jamie's, he had a dildo on a Black & Decker, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, man. I can see that this world is going to come crumbling down in front of me already. Shall we get into characters?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like the fact because obviously when me and Jamie and you first played, I got the most basic of outlines because you were just presumably just fed up with me going, "What do I have to do now? Which one's the 6-sided dice?" So I got a very basic outline, but actually getting to create a character and, like you say, going to all these different planets and stuff, I'm dead excited. So yeah, let's get into it.
Ace. Okay. Right, I'm gonna roll
Oh.
D4 to see who's gonna go up first. You're not gonna hear the clattering of a roll because I forgot my dice, so this is just a little click. Hear this click, everyone. Ooh, did you hear that click? And that is gonna be Jamie, you're up, man. Tell us about your character. Tell us about your inspiration for your character. Now, before everybody starts, bearing in mind, you don't have to give away everything about your character because we want some surprise for the first episode and ongoing episodes, but what do you want to tell us about your character today?
Okay, so my character is, and I want to thank Oli for this because a lot of DMs would not allow this character. He is called Ark, and he's an Aarakocra. So Aarakocras are flying
Bird
creatures.
person.
It's bird person, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely is bird person. Yeah, so he is about 25 years old, which means that he's a very old bird. So
because they only live till they're 30, right?
That's correct. So back to 30.
That's their lifespan. So you're a super old bird.
I'm an old bird.
How many characters is Jamie going to have in this campaign? Just a quick question.
And also, I don't know if I want to take like a decrepit parrot out with me. Like, you're not going to be very reliable.
How dare you? How dare you? Because you shouldn't be insulting your party's healer.
Okay, that changes the game.
I am playing a Tempest Cleric. So I command the weather and storms and can do some cool shit, which I'm really excited to do. I love clerics. I think they're really, really cool. In terms of Ark's character, he's been exiled from his planet for disobeying some orders of some kind. That's what I'm going to tell you about that. Maybe ask about it while we're playing. And yeah, I don't really want to say much about him, to be honest. I think it'd be really interesting for you to find out about him as you play.
Very nice.
Old / potential Uber, if you could, do the old Gandalf and the Eagles trick.
He definitely dies the first flight he ever gives us. He arrives. Oh, great, we've made it here.
Just coughs and falls off his perch. Okay, here we go.
Lands in a volcano. His eyesight is gone. He's got no chance.
Just to go back to what Jamie said about a DM letting someone play as an Aarakocra or an Aarakocra, however you want to say it. Aarakocras, being bird people, at level 1, get to fly. They have a flight speed of
50 feet? Yeah, 50 and I'm pretty confident they don't even have to land. So I'm going to be that really annoying player who, if you've got say if you're fighting in a room, I'll be like, right, how tall is the ceiling? Okay. How tall is the person we're fighting? Okay.
Is there a cage in the corner with newspaper in it and some seed? I go to sleep in the cage.
Yeah.
Roll me a d20. That's a nat 20. Okay, you succeed on finding a birdcage with so basically a level 1 character that fly is so broken and so OP.
Yeah.
But for combat rules and roleplay rules, I just thought, do you know what? Why not? I've never found it in a campaign that I've listened to, so let's give it a go. And you've played clerics ever since we started playing D&D together. So what is it about a cleric that's so appealing to you?
Bloody love a cleric. So he has access to so many kind of spells. So you have all of the clerics. So if you're not into D&D, I'm really sorry. You have the whole cleric.
You're listening to the
spell
wrong
list.
So if you're not
podcast.
into D&D, we've made it this far, then it's on you.
Yeah, I quite like when I'm playing video games. I'm very much often the support character who will drop a healing pack and that sort of thing. So quite comfortable in this role.
Jamie's going to be bouncing around the battlefield. I say bounce. He's going to be swooping around the battlefield, lending out heals and dealing some pretty good damage on like area of effect spells and all that kind of stuff. So that's super exciting. Just to get this in the bag, I think I messaged you this the other day, but you would your god is Tempo, right?
Tempo in this kind of pantheon of gods. Yeah, so that's
Right,
god
so
of storms.
that's it. Weather and violent storms. So you know what kind of Jamie's pantheon and overarching kind of character would be as a grizzled old bird in a cage. Yeah, nice. If that's everything from you, Jamie, I think we're going to move on to Amy's character. Amy, who have you got? I loved making this character with you yesterday and subsequent days because I think you put so much detail into it. So whether you want to put all that detail out now or not, just go ahead and do your thing. Tell us about your character.
Okay, so I'm playing as she's a half elf, and her name is Zakaya Rubbledusk. So bit of backstory. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but obviously it's clear from the half elf description that her parents were a human and an elf. Her mother actually died in childbirth and left her with a bunch of gnomes in a forest. So she's been raised by gnomes, so she can speak gnomish and lots of other stuff. She's probably makes a mean toadstool stew or something. And she is a druid because being raised in a forest situation from the planet of Een, she is incredibly adept with nature. She's very at one with animals, and as a druid I can transform into animals, which genuinely if I could have a power in real life, that would be it. So yeah, it's just super, super cool. I'd be chatting with my Labrador all day long. She can talk to animals. She can command nature. She can use spells. She has kind of like dark tan skin, white dreadlocks, because I always thought that'd be really cool, like white kind of like micro braids. And the pièce de résistance. She has a prosthetic arm. I'm not gonna tell you how it happened, but she has a prosthetic arm. She's had a lot of tragedy in her life, and these days she's very much a nomad. I'll let you discover that as you go, but she doesn't really trust people, and she can be quite antisocial, which is kind of the opposite of me in real life. I'm literally a Labrador in real life. I will just hug whoever sits next to me. If you're within, Jamie knows if you're within, because Jamie's very awkward and it's quite funny. If you're within like a meter of me, it's like a Pokemon trainer. You lock eyes, and I'm like, hey. Yeah, have a hug.
First time I met Amy, she kept touching my arm, and we were in a pub, and she was talking, just touching my arm, and I remember she went to the toilet, and I moved seat between me and someone else, and went to our mutual friend, which is Yaz, and just went to her. Yaz, why does she keep touching me? And there we go. That's the story of how we met.
Having known Jamie for 5 years, this podcast and us doing it remote recording is the best possible thing that he could try and accomplish, because he doesn't have to see anybody and he barely has to talk to anybody, really.
Exactly.
So,
I kind of ask permission now, albeit very quickly.
well, that's why in the intro I called him a socially awkward socialite, because he goes to every party that I'm at, but he just moves away from you if he doesn't go.
Uh,
I want to be party adjacent. That's what I want.
Party adjacent. Oh my god. Well, to be fair, I think we're very much just different ends of the spectrum. I think, like Jamie, you are one way, but I think it's probably partly it's more on me because I think I'm overly affectionate. Like I'm forever having to like, people sort of saying, oh, were you hitting on me that one time? And I was like, no. No, I was just being friendly. But I think that's the thing. It's like if you're very like open with people, they're just like, oh, what's happening here? Anywho,
Jamie's worst nightmare is a over affectionate Labrador,
mhm.
being the one who has all the pets at home in the world.
I have an overly affectionate Labrador cross, so I'm almost there.
Oh my god, so cute.
And you even went so far as to make is it an Xbox Live avatar of this character?
I did, yeah. Well, I wanted to kind of actually, I don't know if you guys might be able to advise me, and even the listeners might be able to advise us, but I was kind of at a bit of a loss as to how to put a visual together for my character. And I think the problem with a lot of the avatar sites online is that they're very much those doll maker things where they just don't look right, and they don't look very fantasy-ish. And I was just trying to like play around. I've been on Pinterest, and I was like, oh, let's put a mood board together for how I think my character could look. Let's really get into it. And in the end, I was like, I've got Xbox Live. I could just make an avatar, and it will look. She's obviously not wearing very druid-like clothes. I think she's got chinos on. But yeah, definitely just the best way of visualizing it, really.
She's very, I think to me, she's very, and I forget the character's name, but she's very Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, Aloy. Yes. I do really love Aloy. And I'm a big fan of like markings and tribal tattoos and stuff, which I think is why I kind of gravitated towards the planet Een, which is very jungle-esque. So
Which is,
yeah.
that's coincidental that you share a home planet of Een with Jamie's character. Isn't that right, Jamie?
Hi, neighbour.
Hey, neighbouroonie.
Both being from the...
I'm standing far away from you though, Jamie. Don't worry. I'm just waving from a distance.
It's all right. Ark isn't socially awkward. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You can touch him if you want.
Oh.
That's such a weird thing to say. Sorry.
It'll be amazing to hear you play someone who's not socially awkward, being that's all I've known of you for the last 5 years.
Why is everyone agreeing? Going, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
Because we know you so well. That's
loser.
why. Amy, back to your character. You have who's your god?
Oh my god! So it was Zorath. So she's a big kind of fan of like beasts and monsters. It kind of she's really intrigued by that raw power. And yeah, so that's kind of who she worships as such. But these days she's kind of drifting around doing odd jobs, stealing to get by. Being a bit of a I guess a sort of delinquent, not in a way that she's necessarily in any way bad, but she's just trying to survive out on the streets, and she wants to learn as much as she can about the world. She's left the past behind her, and she just wants to, she's also got a bit of a drinking problem. We discussed that, me and Ollie, as well, because I think she was quite young, being raised by, she's got a human mother and a elf father.
Yeah.
So she's obviously very mixed up anyway. And having been raised by gnomes, it's a bit like Elf, I imagine, with like Buddy the elf, like basically sitting on people's laps, and everyone's like, Buddy was always different. So she's always felt a bit of a misfit, and I think her kind of drinking and her crazy 90-mile-per-hour experience of the world has come from wanting to get out there and see a world she's never known. So she does go a little bit like an 18-year-old when she has some booze. Doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah, being the same age as Ark, actually 25, but young comparatively, she is experiencing everything all at once, having had to get over tragedy, which I won't mention so quickly. So yeah, she is possibly an 18-year-old Amy, possibly experimenting with drink and getting out there and doing some minor crimes,
What are you trying to say? What's my mum been telling you?
Mrs. Mallett, I'll call you now.
What story is that? Oh, God, don't.
We move on to our final character of the campaign. The trio can't be completed without its third. Adam, tell us about your character for this campaign.
I love how you two have got these, spiritual, God-loving, nuanced characters. Hello, I am Titus Caligarvey, a 7.5-foot tall Goliath from the planet of Ole. Here he is. Basically, I played a barbarian in the previous game and really enjoyed it. And then I was Dragonborn then, but I really like the look of a Goliath character, and a bit like Amy, I've enjoyed getting into the sort of backstory of my character. So Titus, I'll fill you in quickly. Titus Caligavi, although of course all Goliaths have nicknames, and I know what you're thinking. What's Titus's nickname? Well, I looked online. There were suggestions of Stormbreaker or Wind Whisperer.
They're all weather based, aren't they? They're all weather based and big and like mighty. And you were like, I don't want any of that.
No, so please welcome Titus Thunder Bastard Caligavi.
I mean, to be fair, if you heard that as a battle cry, it would inspire fucking fear, wouldn't it?
Indeed. So, yes, he's a 7.5 foot tall, 300-pound barbarian. He is traveling as he was the last man eliminated in what can only be described as the Goliath Royal Rumble. They say right about what you know, so there we go.
Yep.
In the Wintress Games, he is on a quest to marry Zalu, who's the most beautiful woman in Tundra, from the planet of Ole, of course. But before he does, he is on this quest, yes, to prove his honor, prove he is a hero, prove he is worthy, effectively. I particularly enjoyed the discussing this, Ollie, that as I said, I'm a barbarian, but Titus thinks he's a rogue. He's 7.5 foot tall and is a bit like Dave Bautista's character from Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to sneaking up to people. But he's super competitive, of course. He enjoys saying really bad puns when he murders people. And yes, he's got a toothpick in his mouth. Because every character I make in this game has to have some element of Ryan Gosling's character from Drive in there. So he's got a toothpick because it looks cool.
I was going to say it's cool. Drive influenced, isn't it? And of course, people who are listening to this podcast who have not heard our home games, Adam's Dragonborn Barbarian is absolutely lethal with a toothpick in your mouth. But one of your quests for that campaign was to find a gold toothpick. Am I correct?
Indeed.
I can't wait until this podcast kind of takes off and we merchandise toothpicks.
Yes.
Nice.
I want to see people with Thunder Bastard on their shirts.
Hey, Mom, I got the Thunder Bastard mug. Oh my! And you're not a follower of a religion or god within this campaign, are you? You are just part of your clan. That's it, right?
Indeed, yeah. I suppose if gun to his head, if you had to pick a god, he'd pick Titus Thunder Bastard Caligavi as his god. So there we go.
He thinks a lot
of
himself.
My own inspiration.
Yeah.
I am my own muse. And to be fair, he is very well known and loved within his clan and his community because he's a wrestler. He is a wrestler, right? About what you know everything about wrestling and WWE. So why not make that character a wrestler and a folk hero within his clan, and someone who is a big fish in a small pond, but could possibly be a tiny fish in an even bigger pond once they go out there to start adventuring. I think there's so many great avenues we can take with all of your characters, but is there anything that strikes anybody about each other's characters that they think, I really want to get to know that character, or I really want to start adventuring with that character to see what happens?
I mean, I'm desperate to find out how Zach lost the arm, but I reckon it might be better to is it Hot Tub Time Machine where the bloke's lost an arm and then is constantly in situations where they think, oh, this is the bit where he lost his arm. Am I right?
Oh shit! Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, and they sort of tease it the whole movie, don't they? Like, this will be it. This will be it. Yeah. Oh, that could be.
I reckon Amy's character is going to be a bit like the Joker of, you want to know how he got these scars, and just constantly changing the story as to how Zach lost the arm.
Oh
I can't believe
think-
that Hot Tub Time Machine was referenced within this podcast. What a
Yeah,
reference.
what a throwback. I think it's great that we've all got really different characters as well. I was kind of thinking, like, what if we all end up with very much like the same sort of backstory and the same sort of play style? But actually, I'm well up for this because everyone's so different. I'm really excited to get to know both of them. I actually think Thunder Bastard and what was the Thunder Bastard and the Old Bird is a great name for a band.
Thunder Bastard definitely plays bass. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely a bass player. Jamie, any perspective
Yes.
from you on any of these characters that you're going to be interacting with as an old bird man?
As an old bird man.
How's he going to receive, this big Goliath barbarian and this very young, drunk druid?
A drunk Labrador.
I think like he'll get on with the Thunder Bastard, I think, but he'll know the old wrestlers and not the new ones. So I think that'll be the thing for him.
Story of my bloody life, that. I remember the old wrestlers. Yeah, we're not talking about them now, so come on.
So
Fantasy Hollywood Hogan.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You are a era attitude wrestling fan, not a new one like your Goliath character will be from.
Jamie, as someone who's played numerous campaigns, how is our group sort of set up? Because I think we've kind of got a lot of bases covered, I reckon.
I think we're good. I think it's nice. So you've got as a druid, you've also got loads of healing spells as well.
You'll be needing them.
I was going to say I can be a bit of a buffer.
I love the fact we've got a tank.
I do think it's true though. I think we've got a sort of if you can liken it to that, like you say, there is a bit of a tank DPS healer thing going on, which is the perfect party.
Oh my god, I'm Mercy.
Was that an Overwatch reference?
That's an Overwatch reference.
An Overwatch reference. My god, Adam, do you know any of these video game references that we're throwing out there?
I think through working at What Culture, I sort of get second-hand knowledge of that, so I can sort of go, yeah. But if you said, you make an Overwatch joke now, Adam, I'd be like, is that the one with Stephen Merchant in it, or which one's that?
Is there anything you guys want to talk about with your combat skills, or is anything that you want to try out? Is there any kind of thing that you want to bring to the table about combat in any way?
I talked earlier about bringing some of my favourite elements of the first character I ever played with, and just to reiterate, akin to my first character, Gary the Dragon, that I first played as, not only does my character tell crap puns and have a toothpick, also get over a pawn shop for opening doors with his head. Gary was known for what's that? The door's locked. Headbutt it, and usually somehow that worked out quite a lot. I think I got a few nat 20s on unlocking doors with my head. So yeah,
there were a lot of destroyed doors because of your cranium connecting with them.
DMing you while you were doing that, I was like, it's not going to work this time. And every fucking time it worked.
You think he's not gonna save on this throw. The door is gonna break his head in half, and he's gonna TPK, or everybody's gonna die. No, he smashed it open, and he's killed the dragon with his fucking forehead.
I can imagine you just waiting there, Jamie, to be like, you've got the
Every
description
single
for
time.
how his skull shatters in your head, and you're just waiting to deploy it. Nope.
There was literally a time where I went, right, this is a 20 strength check, and he rolled a nat 20.
Oh my goodness. What's everybody's? This is just an offshoot, but what's everybody's experience of rolling dice for D&D? Have they always worked in your favor? I know with rolling, I have a very specific set of dice that I only roll for a specific character because it just seems to work every time I play. And if I use any other dice, my character just fails. So I have to have this black and red colored polyhedral dice that I roll for this monk character that I play within like mine and Jamie's games that we play with a few other people. And they always work for me, but if I roll anything else, it's awful. So has anybody got any dice suspicions, or you just happy to roll and see what happens? Like, because this is dice with death. You are literally rolling a dice and you could die because of the number that you roll. So
I
What's
was
all your
always very
experience with that?
suspicious of, is it initiative you roll to set up like what order you going in a battle? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always very suspicious when we first got started. We obviously didn't own any dice. So we'd be using just like an online D20 or whatever. And it always used to be really good for initiative and then a bit dodgy after that. So now, I don't know if you can hear this.
Oh,
Now,
Oh.
thanks to our friend Sam, who came round, was round ours for like a Sunday lunch and was like, "Oh, I'll just sit in and watch you play a bit of D&D," presumably thinking it was going to take about 20 minutes. 4 hours later, yeah, she'd had enough. She went home, but she was very kind to buy us these dice, and I'm confident with these. I'm excited to see how they do, and if not, they go straight out the window.
they've got one chance.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I need to get myself a proper set because I've only ever really, if I've played with a bunch of mates in the past, I've used their dice, but I have been dreaming and eyeing up some really nice ones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with GameTee.co.uk. They're like a D&D sort of nerd video game merch site, and everything's like an original design.
Mhm.
So they've
Yeah.
got some really cool shit on there. But the dice, they've got such amazing dice sets that some of them are like got like they're kind of tinted with stuff, like they've got gold flakes in them, or they've got like bits of glitter in them, or like bits of
Ooh.
steel or whatever. They come in amazing like kits, so I really want to get one of those.
I just remember that one of the first times we played with these dice very recently, the frustration from Jamie when I was going, which is the 6-sided dice? One's a fucking dice, Adam, the dice one.
Oh, yeah, but to be fair, when you've got like a bazillion different sides of dice,
Yeah.
it does kind of go out your brain, doesn't it? Because you're just like, shit, D6. Like you just, if someone said a dice, you'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Jamie, you're a fucking baller. You're a baller because you roll with a very special D20, don't you?
I've got my dice, they're metal, and I roll so badly with them. But I think that's the best bit of it, really. I think a natural 1 in most cases is so much better than a natural 20 because it's just so funny.
It's a critical success versus a critical fail, and a critical success is like, yes, you did the thing that you wanted to do amazingly well. Congratulations to you. A natural 1, a critical fail takes the story on such a different path. If you're jumping over a ravine and you've got awful athletics, but you want to give it a go, and this ravine is like 500 feet below you, and you get a nat 1, you're either going to be hanging on for dear life, hoping that your party saves you and pulls you up and saves your life, or falling to your death. And what is more of a storytelling motif than someone nearly dying? Like how bigger and better is that? Sure, there are brilliant successes. When you slay a dragon, it's the sickest thing you can do. But falling off a ravine and nearly dying, and other failures within D&D, just take the story to the next level. So
I'm picturing if you rolled a nat 1 when you were doing something like that. You know the bit in Simpsons where Homer falls out the back of an ambulance and just goes back down the cliff?
Like you say, that's character building. If anything, that's character building. You know, if you survive that, you got a tale to tell.
Is anyone else more excited than me to tell some stories and have some fun with D&D?
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
absolutely buzzing.
I'm looking forward to, this is going to sound horrible, Ollie, but really fucking you over as a DM. Just like, you're giving me a broken character. I just want to fuck you over a little bit.
I've let you have a character that no one should ever allow anybody to have, let alone you, who I've played with for a year and know how much of an absolute fuckery you can cause when you're in a campaign. So yeah, I'm in for a tough ride, and I need Amy and Adam to be on my side and cuddle me at night when I'm crying because Jamie suddenly avoided all my area of effect spells, and I flew over here and I avoided everything. No, I do have a plan to keep you grounded, Jamie Powis. I do have a plan.
Okay.
Getting your wings clipped, mate.
Grounded. You gonna clip your wings.
I'm gonna clip your wings, son. But we'll see. Right, I think that wraps up this session 0. I don't really know if this session 0 is like anybody else's session 0 that ever happens, but I'd like to thank my lovely PCs for being part of the table today. You can follow this podcast on all social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Bebo, MySpace, Ancestry.com. At Dice Death Pod. That's at Dice Death Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We won't set up a Facebook because who uses that anymore?
No.
We
You can
plug
follow.
Bebo.
I still have my Bebo. I can still log into my Bebo. I didn't understand MySpace. I thought I set up a MySpace for a band when I actually set up a fan site for me when I had MySpace at the age of 16. So we won't talk about that anymore. But you can follow everybody you've heard today on this podcast on social media too. Thank you to Adam Wilbourn for being the one person apart from me who has one handle on social media. So I now have to read multiple for everybody. If you want to follow Jamie Powis, it's jamie.powis or at Jamu1987. That's Jamie. At I think therefore I am. Oh, I fucked that up so much.
I'm sorry. And we thought Jamie would dick you over.
Yeah, no, just your social media handle. At I think therefore I Amy, or at Amy_Mallett. That's Amy. At Adam Wilbourn is Adam. Thank you, Adam, for making that simple. And at Dead_8 is me. Thank you, guys. Thanks for this session 0. We'll see you all in episode 1. Bye.
Oh.